In 2009, I won my first race as female and realized how incredibly bad I felt because it was in the women's category. I was so uncomfortable in my own skin that it felt like a challenge just to show up at the start of a race and have to pull on a women's swimsuit. And that was the time that I started to decide that I would transition and switch categories to male. These are a couple of the medals that I've won since I started racing competitively. This one right here, my first ever triathlon, and I won my division. This is from the World Championship race that I did in Spain, 2016. I'm really proud of this one, which was first place male at the full distance, so full triathlon, 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, 26.2 mile run.
I've been a triathlete for over 30 years. The first time I met Chris was at the World Duathlon Championships in Spain last year, and I'd certainly heard of him, read about him, and admired what he's done. I particularly admired his athleticism in Spain after he kicked my butt pretty solidly there. I'm fortunate, we're fortunate that he's a triathlete, and he's not only a great guy, but he's a great athlete. And USA Triathlon is proud to have him represent Team USA.
Chris Mosier is a person who had sports in his entire life. As a woman, he participated, he was there. It just was a part of his identity, just like being a trans man is part of his identity. He's an athlete.
I delayed my transition for over a year once I finally understood who I was as a person, because I was terrified that I was going to lose my ability to participate in sport.
The IOC's interest and involvement with transgender athletes and their eligibility for sport really is based on consensus meetings on any subject that's important to the health of athletes. Previously, the IOC had recommended in the guidelines that surgery was needed for transgender athletes. And naturally, there's some concern because we have an overarching responsibility to make sure that all athletes everywhere have a chance to take part in sport. And so it's about participation. But balanced with that has to be fairness in sport, and that's a fundamental principle in sport as well. So to balance these two inevitably leads to some debate, some disagreement, and there was in the case of the transgender guidelines as well.
When I made Team USA in June 2015, I knew I would not be eligible to compete in the World Championship race the following year because of the International Olympic Committee policy and guidelines on transgender athletes, which at that time stated that all transgender athletes needed to have a full lower surgery, including internal and external modifications. And so I knew if I made Team USA, it would be a year of talking about what's in my pants. My whole thing was that I qualified for Team USA just like the rest of the guys on the team. And I knew that I belonged at the starting line representing our country. What it did was position me as a name and a face to say, I'm a real athlete who's not able to compete because you're asking me to modify my body in a way that I don't want to. The biggest challenges that I had were a lack of understanding from race organizations, and then also the red tape. Certain race registrations go by your driver's license or had me in a system already as female without the ability to change that. I wanted to make sure that I was very aware of what the policies were so that no one could question the validity of me being there.
There was more evidence available. The experts were saying we should review the guidelines that the IOC had in place. And so it culminated in November 2015 with another expert panel meeting on transgender. And this expert panel considered all the evidence that was available. And after much debate, and it wasn't unanimous, but after much debate, the new consensus statement makes it clear that if medical treatment can be shown to be effective, then no surgery is required.
The opportunity to participate in sport opens up the opportunity for individuals to be themselves. The ultimate goal of USA Triathlon is to be fully inclusive. When you talk about sport, it's about commitment, and it's about people competing and participating together and respecting each other. And that's what this speaks to. I think it's important because it removes barriers in the transgender movement relative to sport. Chris Mosier has done a great job of getting himself out front, which is important. That's how the message gets out.
I think the story wraps up for me in actually being there at the starting line, wearing the Team USA kit, crossing the finish line, holding the flag. I don't think that I ever would have gotten to the level that I'm at now had I continued to compete as a woman.
To be able to transition and carry his sport with him in such a strong way gives hope and gives a role model to people everywhere that are transgender and that are working to meet their dream.
This is an opportunity now where it's not just me able to compete internationally, it's any trans athlete now has the opportunity to compete at the highest levels of sport. The more that I can be out and open and visible and public about my identity, the better that it is for trans inclusion in athletics. That's the most amazing thing for me.